it is. Sorry? Do we have any notice of any substitutions? No? Do we have any apologies? No. Thank you. To receive any declarations of interest from anybody? No. To be agreed by general affirmation, the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 27th of September. Can I have a general affirmation? Agreed. Thank you. To consider any items that the chairman agreed to take as urgent business, I have none. So we move on to the main item of the evening, which is the draft corporate plan and budget for 2024-25. And if I can hand over to Catherine Hall to take us through that part. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I think we're going to try to take this report in sections to assist the committee. So I'm going to just talk at a general level about sections 1 and 2, and then perhaps we could take questions or a debate on that and then move through using that as a pattern, if that would be all right with members. By way of introduction really to sections 1 and 2 of the paper, just wanted to bring you up to date on a couple of things and also just draw your attention to some of the, the overall look and feel, if you like, of the budget and service plan proposals rather than the detail, although there's plenty of opportunity to go into that should you wish to. First of all, I wanted to thank those members of this committee who served on the working group, the cross-party working group that helped us develop these proposals. We're really grateful for your time and energy and guidance in putting these sets of proposals together. So thank you very much for the help that you gave us. It can't come as any surprise to everybody, bearing in mind the media coverage we've had over the last couple of weeks, that our sector is facing some kind of unprecedented challenges, really, financially and in terms of service delivery. And I think we just need to keep that in the centre of our minds as we consider these options that are in front of you tonight. There are some choices with regard to the budget around things like tariffs and fees and making reserves and so forth. And I think the bigger picture of our sector is important to remember that the sector's under more pressure than I can remember in the whole of my career. And there are many councils not very far from here who are facing effectively, in another world, bankruptcy or a 114 notice. So I think more than ever, together, members and officers together have to work to build the strongest, most prudent budget we can for our council and the residents who rely on our services. So it's a heavy responsibility, actually, in the current climate, and that does involve some difficult choices. But I would have to say, compared to the choices being faced by members perhaps of Hastings at the moment, they are considerably easier, I would say, than those members are facing. Today we had an announcement from the government and a letter from the Secretary of State in the afternoon to suggest that more money is going to be available to local government through the provisional settlement. Again, I've never known that happen at such a late stage in my career. I don't think I can ever recall anything like this happening before. We haven't had the details, so we've had a letter. I've had a letter from Mr. Gove saying that about the global amount of money that's going to be available to local authorities, the vast majority of it will go to those with social care responsibilities, adults and children. So in our area, that would be the county council. There is a smaller amount of money which is going to be reserved for districts, and we haven't yet had our allocation. Our rough maths, though, is that it could be somewhere between about 150 and 170,000. So it isn't going to move the dial on the shape of this budget. It isn't enough money to change anything markedly, but that, as soon as we get further and better particulars, we'll update members and certainly the Cabinet before it makes its deliberations, assuming the government tells us. So I think if we're stepping back from the detail and we're saying, what does this show us? What this shows us is that the financial strategy that the council's adopted over the years has brought us some benefits in that even in a climate of great financial uncertainty, we can still make some positive choices for our residents, and section 2 in particular draws people's attention to that. And things like making provision to roll out 123. We're massive advocates of 123 in this authority, so we would like to start to create a reserve to meet the significant costs that will be involved in that. We're continuing, we've protected the amount of money we're making available to community grants. That's a big plus, something that lots of authorities haven't been able to hold on to. We're a living wage employer, that's another positive. We're maintaining work on our sustainable economic strategy. So there's lots of positives in there, despite the challenges. But when you look at the maths of the money, it is really important that we remember that we're only at this position because we're still drawing on our reserves in order to make all this work, to the tune of just under 1.8 million. And that is not a situation that can continue in the medium term at all. So we will need to look at how we bring our income and expenditure into balance. And you've heard me say it before, long-standing members, there's only two ways of doing that. You maximise your income or you reduce your costs. And that's a Hobson's choice if ever there were one. But I think we know what in the past we've done. You have to look at income first before you start cutting services, in my view, especially at times when communities need us. So we have to address that imbalance over the life of this council. We must try to do that. Right. I think probably that was all I wanted to say at this point, Chairman, if that's all right. But yes. We'd be very happy to take any comments or debate on sections 1 and 2 of the paper.
Thank you, Catherine. And before we go on to that, I'd like to add my personal thanks to the working group, cross-party working group that worked very hard on the papers that the officers have worked very hard to prepare as well. It's been a joint effort all the way along. Thank you. If anybody has any questions on that part of the agenda, would you press your buttons? No? Don't think we have anybody on that, so super. Thank you, Catherine. Yeah. So we go on to the next section, which we will ask Judy Holmes to take us to. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. What I've written here is quite self-evident, so I don't intend to say very much at all, but other than to say that once again this year we've made some significant achievements. Just want to pick out a few. The district plan is at Regulation 19 consultation, and we hope to adopt that in 2024. To support its implementation and to support our towns and parishes, we're proposing to invest in a Section 106 account manager. This will ensure that the much needed infrastructure is secured and delivered to establish sustainable communities. We're making excellent progress in delivering our sustainable economy strategy, including continuing our journey to net zero. We have refocused the work of our communities teams to offer support to those less able to help themselves, and we're planning to focus on community development. With the help of our partners, we've refreshed the Mid-Sussex partnership to ensure that we're maximising all opportunities to work with our partners to the benefit of our residents, including working with the Integrated Care Board. We have made this progress and secured many other significant achievements whilst maintaining excellent performance in delivering key and important services to our residents, such as determining our planning applications, carrying out food hygiene inspections, delivering disabled facilities grants to help residents stay in their own homes, working to improve housing standards and ensuring our communities are safe. I'm happy to answer any questions along with my team. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Anybody got any questions, please? No, thank you very much. Go on to the next section then, please, which is Simon Hughes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I intend to cover a number of the key elements of the service plan and implications on the budget. I think the first place to start will be on digital and technology. And as Audit Committee, members of the Audit Committee will be familiar, one of our significant corporate risks is cybersecurity, and the digital team are working closely with the National Cybersecurity Centre to address those issues. As you'll appreciate, line of business systems, so revenues and benefit systems, planning systems, etc., are critical in providing the services that our communities need, and therefore the security of those is equally important. On perhaps a less worrying issue, we're also looking at the use of AIs. So for those of you that will recall HAL or even Skynet, we're looking actually at the use of AIs and improving our ability to respond to customer needs, and also looking at how we can use them to provide efficiencies within highly transactional services. Moving on to revenues and benefits, you'll be aware of the considerable work the team's done over the course of COVID and subsequently as the cost of living increases have impacted on energy bills. The team have worked tirelessly to issue grants. We've been very successful at issuing grants quickly and accurately, and we'll continue to respond to any needs that come from government that we can meet the needs of our businesses and communities. As Catherine has said, housing options will continue to address the needs of residents, and that has seen a significant rise in the local needs. You'll be aware of the challenges that other councils are facing on things like homelessness, and we are in a perfect storm of increases in mortgage costs, so people can no longer afford their accommodation, a reduction in private rented sector and the sale of private rented sector as landlords move out from that, and I've talked to a number of members today about that happening. So what we are doing is working upstream with people to prevent homelessness and to find them suitable accommodation, that assist in things like how they can manage their finances, but also looking at access to work and those sorts of opportunities. We're also working with the County Council on care leavers and their specific housing needs and other support that needs to be offered. Rather more sobering, we are seeing an increase in the cases of domestic violence that we need to support, who require accommodation, and for the first time those form the highest percentage of our homeless applications. So as you'll appreciate, that is a significant issue that we need to address. All of those issues see an increase in the need for outreach work, so our teams are now looking at more early intervention, and we're increasing our intervention and specific accommodation support to meet the needs of rough sleepers, families and other vulnerable people. So then to move on to contracts and services, as Catherine said, we have the 123 food waste trial. That has been very successful. We have over 60% recycling rates amongst the members of that trial, the 3,000 members of that trial. And the service is extremely popular with residents. We have over 90% who've retained the service and are enjoying that service, certainly from the feedback we receive. And you'll be familiar that the government have announced in October the Simpler Recycling policy, and we are working with our county colleagues and other districts on the full rollout of food waste by March 2026. And within the budget, we're proposing to maintain that pilot because it's significantly easier to upscale a pilot in readiness for March and extend it to a further 2,000 homes. Then moving to the Centre for Outdoor Sport at Brookley, you'll be aware that Homes England has gifted us the land for that, and also Section 106, so we can provide community sports facilities. That will be a significant project for this coming year. On leisure, you'll also have noted that Places Leisure have invested over £700,000 in our leisure centres to improve the facilities offered to residents, and we're also reviewing the schemes to support more vulnerable people and families attending those leisure centres. I couldn't get away with introducing this without talking about parking. Now, parking is an emotive subject, and you'll be aware that in 2020 Council adopted a parking strategy, and that was formed by a cross-party working group. The key element of that strategy, or one key element of that strategy, is to consider charges and consider what we can do to do tariffs that vary according to the needs of the local businesses, communities, commuters and residents in those areas. And so that is also included. And that adopted parking strategy critically covers differential tariffs. And they cover how much a car park is used, where the car park is, its relationship to other types of parking in that area, and what those car parks are used for. And as you'll know, we operate our car parks professionally, and we look to invest in those car parks. And so the tariffs also include our ability to invest in those car parks. And where required, we can look at extending and producing additional capacity. And one of the programmes that we're intending to do is to look at feasibility of increasing capacity at Queen's Road Car Park in East Grinstead. And I think that covers the main points of this element of the proposals. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. If anybody has any questions, can they press their buttons, please? Right, Jackie.
Thank you. I haven't actually got any questions, just some comments, which does actually say in the papers, comments or recommendations. So just referring to the parking strategy of 2020 to 2030. So, okay, I wasn't a district councillor in 2020, so I wasn't part of this cross-party agreement, but I am the member for East Grinstead Town Ward, as you know, and obviously I have a few concerns about the introduction of the differential tariffs, because that affects absolutely every single car park within my ward. And as you will probably know, East Grinstead is the smallest of the three towns, and it has extremely limited off-street parking. So residents that don't have off-street parking find themselves quite often in the Queen's Road area having to pay for a permit, which is about £58 a year at the moment, and then having to find that they end up parking in the car park. East Grinstead, unlike Burgess Hill and Haywards Heath, has also got extremely limited access to free parking in car parks and actually on street, because there are numerous controlled parking zones. So it does concern me that you are looking to implement the parking strategy this year, because that's immediately going to massively impact those residents in particular, with the introduction of evenings and weekends, not to mention the increase, quite a significant increase compared to the increases being levied on Burgess Hill and Haywards Heath. I note that there is the feasibility in train. I think that's actually a good move. I would like to see how that's going to look, and I would like to see and I would like it to be considered for the residents that immediately are impacted by this around Queen's Road, West Street, West Hill, consideration for them by way of a dedicated deck and a concessionary parking permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to answer that, Simon? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, the parking strategy and the work that we have commissioned from Parking Matters does agree with you about the need for additional parking in East Grinstead, and particularly around Queen's Road, which is why the feasibility is included. And that's one of the benefits of using this approach, where we can look at what are the parking needs in that particular area in relation to all communities. And as you've said, as the Councillor said, you've talked about residents. There is also people that come to visit the area for shopping, commuters, businesses and so on. And so the approach that we adopt in the parking strategy that was adopted in 2020 is to look at all that data to analyse what's the specific need and therefore what is required in that specific area. And so as we do the work to look at the feasibility of redecking of Queensway, it will include that specific analysis to make sure we meet all those specific needs. And also we'll be talking to West Sussex County Council, which, as you'll be aware, is responsible for the on-street parking.
Thank you. Sorry, I think you've turned your microphone off, so I'm not sure you can reply straight away. We can try, I don't know. Yes.
Trust me to
Good.
look it up, sorry. No, that's absolutely fine. And I know I've tried for years as the county councillor for the same area to try and get some movement for those particular residents because they are hugely constrained. I understand why we need to increase income in order to provide services, but when I actually look at the parking strategy and what is actually proposed to be implemented from April, and there's quite a significant increase in car park charges for residents and visitors to East Grinstead, it does concern me. I note that, 4 years ago, the strategy indicated that we were a market town with a great retail offer. I think they need to take a walk down our London Road and in our High Street. We've lost 2 restaurants in the last year and 1 went yesterday. So I don't think that we are this universally affluent as people may think. So I just want to really register that concern. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. I've been looking at the Haywards Heath Parking Matters survey that was report that was done in February 2020, and they were predicting growth using the 10 Pro facility, because the only data they had, I think, was 2016. And I was just wondering, looking back at East Grinstead, the latest, am I right in thinking the latest road space audit was 2017? So I'm just coming round to thinking whether I know that the Queen's Road car park is mega busy, because I use it myself occasionally, and it's ridiculous. It's easily the most popular car park in East Grinstead. But when you look at East Grinstead overall, there's Vicarage and Checkermead, and there's not far away. The other car parks, there's often spaces. So not only that, in this parking matters study, they were talking about the changing demography of users, really, whereas people are doing a lot less shopping. I mean, East Grinstead, I don't see it as being a very vibrant centre, actually, compared with Haywards Heath, which I also go to regularly. I would say the shops are not really buzzing, and the footfall, it certainly wouldn't warrant, I don't think, the differential that's being proposed. I know at this committee all we're looking at is the budget, and I'm in agreement with the budget, but I don't see sufficient evidence coming forward, and this is what, as a scrutiny, this is what I would like to point out to the cabinet and who are going to receive this next if we approve it. Where is this evidence of this overloading overall in the car parks in East Grinstead? So I think that's my first point. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Would you like to
Thank you, Chairman.
answer that? Thank you.
The cross-party working group that considered the proposals will have received a report from Parking Matters, a technical report of November 2023, which you may well recall. And that is the latest information, the latest data that they have reviewed concerning the car parks across the whole of the district. So the data that you refer to has already been revised and new data has been included, and that was included in the report that the committee saw. We can certainly make that available, and I believe that you have seen that, and that supports the proposals within the budget.
May I come back?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Simon. The thing that I actually voted against the Parking Matters report when it came to council in 2021 or 20. And one of the reasons I didn't think it was really looking at the town as a whole. And what happens when these car parks are busy is that people end up driving around the town centre trying to find somewhere to park. And it seems to me that a more technological solution, which be right up your street, for Yeah, for an an online system with overall indicators to visitors to the town, indicating the availability of car parking spaces overall. So I really don't think that they're going far enough, and I'm sort of worried to think about building decks on the Queen's Road car park. So thank you very much.
Do you want to go back? Yes.
Thank you, and it won't surprise members to know that, yes, I am interested in the use of technology to improve things for local people. One of the things that the tariffs enable us to do, and the parking strategy actually addressed back in 2020 and continues to be a key theme, is investment and investment in innovation and technology. And one of the things we would be looking to do is to improve the use of technology exactly to do that. And so tariffs and technology enable us for people to find the spaces that they need at the time they need them. And the principle within the parking strategy is to ensure that each car park reflects the needs of that local area and the other car parks that are available. So we know, for example, that in town centres, what we find businesses want, shops need, restaurants need, is people that are going to use their shop and their restaurant for a certain period of time, and then other people will come in and purchase items or come for food. So the tariff supports that churn and the dwell time of people in that local town. Whereas outside of town or near to transport hubs like stations, season tickets, a longer stay is needed. And that's the behaviour that the tariff absolutely tries to support. And your point is well taken and part of the strategy, that if we can avoid people driving around, that improves transport times, also reduces emissions and serves communities better. And that is the very purpose of the strategy, is to actually address those sorts of needs. And the tariff is part of the way we can address that.
Thank you, Simon. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, I've turned it on. Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted clarification. I was on the budget working group, and in that budget, when we were talking about parking, one of the issues, and I think it was yourself, Chairman, mentioned that the problems with parking in Sussex, and that parking is not so much the locals, that parking is commuters, and it affects the churn for the shops. Is that still the case? I just wondered if that was still a big issue. Thank you.
I don't think things have changed very much. I think they're probably the same. I wasn't on this working group that you were on, so I don't know what the discussions were, but it's the same. Yes, thank you. You want to come back?
Sorry to miss,
That's all
but
right.
I think it was one of your group mentioned it for Sussex.
Right. Are there any more? No. No. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Shall we go on to the next section now? And we will, that's Louise, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you everyone. So the section of the budget that relates to my area is really the services that enable my colleagues Simon and Judy to deliver. So we are the slightly less exciting back office functions. So I suppose the couple of things that I would like to point out. Catherine mentioned earlier that we're in a position to be a real living wage employer, something that we're incredibly proud of. And working with my colleague Paula, who's joined us this year, we've launched an apprenticeship scheme, which will include targeting care leavers as well as other groups, and that will also enable us to support in the development of our staff, which is incredibly important. It's a really, really tough market, and we can't compete with the private sector in terms of pay, but we can compete in terms of the opportunities that we offer. We've also launched an adult work experience programme, which gives people opportunities to build their CV by coming to work with us. And I suppose the other thing I would draw attention to would be the work that we've done with our legal team this year. So legal services in local government are incredibly difficult to recruit to, and for quite a long time we've been using interims, etc., and we've worked really creatively to bring people into the private sector with the package that we're able to offer, and we, for the first time in a long time, have a fully staffed in-house legal team. which we're starting to see the dividends of. So with no disrespect to the lawyers and the accountants, I think that's all there is to say about us.
Thank you, Louise. Anybody got any questions on this particular part of it? No, thank you. Do we want to go on to the next section now about reserves? Yeah.
Yes, so I'm actually going to talk a bit generally about finance, if that's okay, because it does all lead into reserves. And I think Catherine started in her introduction with, you know, the unprecedented news we've had today. And even if that is around the 150, 170 mark, we're still looking at £1.6 million draw on our reserves. All the announcements that we've had, the local government settlement that I updated you on and that is in this paper, and the announcement today, they're 1 year only. That doesn't enable us to plan. That doesn't help us address our structural gap. And we do face a cliff edge. So without business rates reform, we're looking at 1.5 to 1.8 structural gap every year. If business rates reform comes in, it will absolutely decimate us. And I think the only way that Rachel has been able to recommend this budget to you is because we've also made a request in there, I suppose, that our future new homes bonus and treasury management income takes that reserve back to some level of buoyancy. And again, I think hopefully we've been as transparent and clear as we can about that general reserve in that half of it is money that we hold in perpetuity, so it's not really our money, it's promised to someone else. So for things like the SANG, so it's money that we hold, but it isn't for our use. And one of the things that we've really been able to achieve by the way in which we've stewarded our general reserve is the Local Authority Housing Fund this year. So the government offered every local authority essentially free money and said, if you can match this 60-40, you can buy some temporary accommodation. And we were able to do that because we've had really good stewardship of our money. And what that means is that we're not experiencing the draw on revenue income that other authorities have because we've had the ability to get ahead of the game, invest in property, and therefore we're not paying B&Bs, which is surely better for all of us. I think we know that inflation's been high and it may be falling, but it's still higher than we're allowed to raise council tax by. And so we're always behind the curve in terms of how we're closing that gap between income and expenditure. And so fees and charges really are our major lever that we can pull. And that's why I think both Catherine, Rachel and myself would say to you, I know it feels like a difficult decision, but those are really important ways because they're better than not delivering the services. And we remain brilliant value. Will be about £190 a year for a Band D. So that is, I think we're still the third lowest in West Sussex. So that's just to put that in context. I hope that the budget was transparent and clear, but I'm very, very happy to take any questions.
I don't have anybody appearing on my screen at the moment, so I think, yes, we do. Councillor Brown.
Thank you very much. Could I just ask about new homes bonus? And because I was looking for it, I didn't see how it appear. And you know, considering every year the government say it's going to be the last time they award it, and it has been awarded again. Could you just educate me a little bit on that? Thank you.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Thank you, Louise.
So if you go to, it's the last table it's on page 41. Under total general reserve, there's a figure 9,851,000 with an asterisk next to it. And essentially that asterisk points to a comment that says it excludes the new homes bonus or any additional treasury management income. And it's And for Rachel, in preparing her robustness statement, what she's said earlier in the report is that the reserve last year was over £12 million. This budget takes it to 9.8, and we would assume that future windfall income will help to raise that back up again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So if there are no other questions, I'd like to take you to page 7 for the recommendations, and will you make your views known with your touch screen, please? Yeah.
Confirm now, Sue.
And we have the results in, please?
No, you just need to press
It's not working. No.
You've got something, have you, Aidan? Could you vote again, please? Sorry.
We can always put our hands up
Yeah,
if we
we
need
might
to.
have to go back to old school at this rate. You can see something, can you? Great.
Thank you. Kevin, could you give us the result?
Thank you, Chair. So I can confirm the vote as follows. In favour, 7, against 2, with 1 abstention. So the motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so we go on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Scrutiny work programme on pages 43 to 46. And I think Louise is going to introduce this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and I thank you for the comments that you raised with me in terms of clarity on the agenda for the next meeting. So this committee has indicated that it would like to have some of our partners come in, and we have been able to schedule colleagues from the NHS to come in to talk about GP provision on the 17th of April, and therefore the social housing partners will be scheduled to the first meeting of the next municipal year. And I think that gives you a whole meeting to have a robust debate on that topic. I'll take any questions.
Has anybody got any comments? I think that will be a very interesting meeting, so we look forward to that one, I think. Thank you. So we need to vote on that as well anyway. Thank you. So if we go to the page 43 and to the recommendation, the committee is recommended to confirm the work programme for the municipal year 22-23 and 24 and beyond. Can you do your touch screen? Let's hope it works this time. We have the result.
Thank you, Chair, and I can confirm that that motion was carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. Right. Go to item 8, questions pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 10.2. I have none. And that's the end of the meeting. Yes, thank you very much for all attending. And we look forward to a good year ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you.